All right. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to look at how to find an angle when you are given information about the sides of a right triangle. So this is using inverse trigonometry, and I'm just going to have you kind of pause the video for a moment and write in what you are missing. We are on page 27. So we use inverse trigonometry to find the angle. And then example 1 here is triangle CAT with the sides 3, 4, 5. Example 2, letter A, the acute angles are X and Y. All three of these are right angles. And then the hypotenuse in letter A is 17. This leg is 14. And then over here, the legs are 12 and 17. And then the angles are X and Y degrees. Okay, so when we're using inverse trigonometry, first of all, we're looking at right triangles that are non-special, meaning they are not 30, 60, 90 degrees, and they are not 45, 45, 90 degree triangles, okay? I would recommend that you always circle the reference angle, label your sides O, A, and H for opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse, and then you want to take inventory, kind of doing that checklist to decide which trig functions you want to use. So at this point, hopefully you're pretty good at finding the side, and now we're actually going to go through and find the angle. So to find the acute angle in a right triangle, this reads the inverse sign. So if the sign of A equals X, then the inverse sign of X equals the measure of angle A. So what does that look like? And I'll show you that in just a quick second. And then if the cosine of A equals X, then the inverse cosine of X equals the measure of angle A. And if the tangent of A equals X, then the inverse tangent of X equals the measure of angle A. So this is basically an exercise in the calculator, because if you look at example 1, you have all three sides, you know it's a right triangle. So that takes care of step 1. We know it's a right triangle. I don't know any of the angles, so I want to circle a reference angle. So I'm just going to pick angle T. And now relative to angle T, remember you can highlight and label your hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to highlight my hypotenuse over here for side CT. I guess I could do that in pink if it's not bright enough for you. All right, and then the side opposite that would be the CA. This is opposite. And then this is my adjacent. So the 4 is the adjacent side. And what I would like to do now is decide which trig function I would like to use. Now, if you look here, I have information about everything. So I could use any trig function that I wanted because I have the information about the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. So just because it's the first one, I'm going to use sine. So we know that the sine of T, sine of acute angle T, is the ratio of the opposite side to the hypotenuse. So if you need to write out SOHCAHTOA for yourself, you certainly can. Hopefully you have it memorized now. But the sine of the acute angle T is the ratio of the opposite side to the hypotenuse. So that's going to be 3 divided by 5. So what we will do is now use the inverse function in the calculator. So we're going to say the inverse sine of 3 over 5, and we're going to use that to get our decimal. So to get our angle, we're going to use that to get our angle. So I'm going to come in here, and you can verify your mode. I think we already did that, so everybody should be in degree. So I'm going to hit quit. And I'm going to do above sine, cosine, and tangent. You can see real closely that you have those inverse buttons. That's not very clear. The green function, the inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent. So because it's in green, you're going to use the second function on the calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do second and then sine, and you can see how that -1 shows up in the calculator. And now I'm going to do 3 divided by 5. If I want, I could put that in parentheses. So I could do 3 divided by 5. And then I'm going to get 36.8698. So I'm going to round that. I'm going to say approximately, so double squiggly, 36.9 degrees. And that's going to be the measure of angle T. Okay, now I could have done that using different numbers, and you don't need to do this, but I am going to just quickly show you. Say you would wanted to do that with tangent, I could have done the second tangent of 3 divided by 4, and I get the exact same angle. Now, you can repeat the process and do that for angle C. Remember, the opposite and the adjacent will always be opposite, but we talked a lot about this and how you can just do the complement. So you can do 90 minus 36.9 to get the other adjacent angle. So I can do 90 minus, and actually I can do answer. So second negative, and that'll give me the 53.1 degrees. Now that's a rounded number. And that's the measure of angle C. So in my opinion, it's a lot quicker just to do 90 minus the acute angle. Okay, moving on to letter A. We're going to find X and Y. And again, you want to say, okay, it's a right triangle. I don't know any of the acute angles, so I'm going to assume it's not special. I'm going to pick my reference angle. So I'm going to pick X. I'm going to highlight my hypotenuse. So here's my hypotenuse for the 17. Opposite, I don't know, and adjacent, I do know. So if I would like, I can write out SOHCAHTOA. Okay, and then this is the part where you're taking your inventory. So at this point, I want to go through and say, okay, I know information about the adjacent side, so I can put a little check here and here. And I know information about the hypotenuse, so I can put a check here and here. And then take a look and see which trig function gets the most votes. So in this case, it's cosine. So I'm going to use the cosine function. So it's always the cosine of the acute angle. So I'm going to write the cosine of angle X, because my angle is in X degrees, is the ratio of the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. So that's going to be 14 divided by 17. And now anytime I'm looking for the angle, if you are looking for the angle, we're going to use inverse trigonometry. And I'm going to come back up here at the top, and I am going to go ahead and highlight that. So if I'm doing inverse trigonometry, I'm always finding the angle. So that's the whole point of the inverse trigonometry. All right, and now I'm looking for the angle, so I'm going to use my inverse trig. So I'd like to see you write on your paper the inverse cosine of 14 over 15. And go ahead. Now this time I'm going to show you how to do it on a graphing calculator. So if you have a graphing calculator, I'm going to do the same thing. Second cosine 14 divided by 17. It's almost the exact, it is the exact same keystrokes. And I get 34.6 degrees. Okay, and then so kind of similar to the other one. And then we're always going to find the complement. So we're going to do 36. We're going to do 90 minus the 34.6. This time I didn't use the answer button. I certainly could. And I get 55.4 degrees. So this is going to be Y, and this is going to be X. And what I will always say to you is at the end of the problem, does your finding make sense? And these are both acute angles. So yeah, these actually are very logical acute angles. It's not like you're getting a decimal that's 0.87. That would be a really weird angle measure. If it's more than 90 degrees, that would also be inappropriate. Okay. All right. Going on to letter B, I would come on over here and you're going to pick your reference angle because we are looking for the angles here. So I'm going to pick X again. Here's my hypotenuse. I don't know any information about that. This side is the opposite. This side is the adjacent. Okay. So now, TOA. I know information about the opposite side and the adjacent side. So now tangent for the win. So anytime you don't know the hypotenuse, you're going to be looking at tangent. So I'm going to be doing the tangent of X equals the ratio of the opposite side to the adjacent side. And now we're going to use that inverse button again. So you have the inverse tangent of 17 divided by 12. And this time I'm going to show you how to do this on your phone. So if you have a typical smartphone, remember you want to turn it so you're in the other calculator menu. And this is a little tricky. So you're going to do 17 divided by 12, hit enter, and then you're going to do the second button here. And now I'm going to do tangent. And I did something wrong. Okay, so let's try that again. So I'm going to do 17 divided by 12, hit enter, and I'm going to do second tangent, so see how it's the inverse tangent. I knew I did something wrong right away because I didn't get an acute angle. So I get 54.8 degrees. And then I would do the negative here, the negative button above the 8, and then do plus 90, just because I'm a little lazy. And that will be a way to do the complement here to get the 35.2 degrees for y. And there you go. All right, hope this helps.